Hello and welcome to this new video. It's a pleasure for me to see you here and what we want to talk about today. Today we want to talk about fuzzing. Security and fuzzing is a topic that really needs some attention because with this you can find a lot of security holes, vulnerabilities. And what's the history, how it's done, and what are the characteristics of fuzzing. This is what we want to explore a little bit today. And by the way, my name is Sven Ruppert. I'm from Germany, but right now I'm here in the Swedish woods for a 1 week hiking trip, and I will take you with me to these two journeys. One to this Swedish national park and the other one is here to the topic fuzzing. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe my channel. It would be a pleasure for me to see you as my new subscriber. And so weather is good. I'm now searching for the next location where I can have my camp for today, and you will join me on these two journeys for my new camp for tonight and for the topic fuzzing. So let's start. Okay, what's fuzzing? What's the history of fuzzing? It starts in the late 80s, 1988, I think, at the University of Wisconsin. And there this professor started to generate random input sequence, so commands, parents and all this stuff for Unix command line tools. And he was able to crash, I think, between 25 and 33%, what I was able to read and find in documentation. He was able to crash these programs. And after this program crashed, he analyzed, okay, why it crashed, what was a mistake, what was a misbehavior, and all this stuff. So he published, after 1 year of analyzing this stuff, the source code of the tool that's generating at a very high frequency these commands, and the results, and what tools and operating systems, all this stuff. So he published all this so that other researchers can start eliminating bugs, making it harder, analyzing the behavior and so on. Since this time, every few years, sometimes a little bit longer time in between, they're redoing it. But this is more or less what you are able to find in documentation as history of fuzzing. Okay, what I mentioned as history of fuzzing, we have a different history what you are able to find, and this is a history of testing programs against random input sequence. And this means we are talking about the term monkey testing. It starts in the early 1950s, so that they use this wrong punch cards or whatever. I don't know the exact name for this card with this holes in, but they used it as random input for the programs. And what they wanted to try is to make this program robust or hard against wrong input sequence. So both are more or less the same. So since the 1915s, more or less, we try to break programs with bad input sequence, but the topic was different. So it was more or less, on one side they try to find misbehavior or make it more robust or more convenient. On the other side, this fuzzing is more or less the term of finding security holes. But in the end, feeding programs with random input seeds, and this is more or less the basic thing. But we can have different structures and behaviors how we are doing it, but this is the next one. Okay, now it's time to talk a little bit about the generator itself. So if you're fuzzing, you need random inputs, and you can have different characteristics. So for example, one thing is that you say, I'm using existing input seed and start mutating it, so I'm just changing parts of it, but you have an existing input seed. On the other side, you can say, I'm completely done at this point, I'm just generating random input strings, okay? The other thing is, if you are aware of, so these two things, what I mentioned is mutation based or generation based. The next category or next dimension is, do I have information about the structure? So if I know, for example, all params, and I just want to use random inputs for existing parameters, then it's a structured generated approach. On the other side, sometimes it's really interesting to see if I'm pressing A, B, C, D and some other buttons and shaking mouse. So if this is just doing something. So it means we have the structured and unstructured way of generating it. And the last dimension, what you can do is how many information you have about the internal structure of this program. And this could be in a way that you say, the black box version is, I know nothing, I'm just try to put stuff in, and the opposite of it, it's white box testing. You know all of the internal structures and try to get several things explicit triggered, and in the middle, well, half black, half white is gray box testing. So these are the three dimensions you can start categorizing the generator for this fuzzing approach. With fuzzing, you are not declaring there is no bug. Fuzzing is just used to show a bug. It means depending on the amount of different input values or the combination of all possible input values, the runtime would be endless for the most programs. And that means you can't use fuzzing to verify there is no bug based on the input values. But what you can do is defining, okay, I found a bug with fuzzing, and I see quite often that people are misunderstanding this one. So the program could run over weeks without any exception with random input seeds, but it's just a tiny amount of all possible input seeds. So that's one thing. Make sure that you are able to identify what's going on, so an exception or a crash or whatever. We will cover this in a minute, but fuzzing is just used to demonstrate a dedicated bug, not the absence of bugs. So next thing is how to verify the result of this fuzzing. The easiest way is the fuzzer is generating inputs, starts the program, and the program is crashing. So you have the easiest difference between programs crashing, programs not crashing. But that's not all, because sometimes programs having misbehavior or memory leaks or whatever, and they're not directly crashing, but they have no explicit way to say that they are in an incorrect mode. For this you need these cleaners. These cleaners are pieces of code that are looking inside the application, and then you can analyze, for example, this memory leaks, thread deadlocks. You can identify, for example, if you are leaving the control flow in a way that you are randomly in some different part of the program you should never be. Okay, so all this stuff you can analyze. It means you need something like an X-ray through this program and to analyze, okay, is the behavior exactly like it should be? If you don't have this, what you can do is you can do it in different ways. So the difference between two programs. For example, you have an HTTP server and they are running against the spec. And if you're fulfilling the specs, the behavior should be the same. Now you're starting both programs and feeding both programs with the same input values and compare the result. If the result is the same, everything is good. If you have different results, you have something you should investigate. So looking inside, why is this a miss? Is this inside the spec a possible behavior? Is this an impossible behavior? Is this a bug? And so on. So you have three ways: crashing, no crashing, checking inside the application if there is some different things like memory leaks, deadlocks, the integrity of the control flow and all this stuff, if this is right or wrong, or you can just compare two programs that are running against the same spec. Challenge is, if you don't have something like a spec you can check against, then the only thing is crashing, no crashing, or checking inside the application if the behavior is right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about real life examples where fuzzing is used. And here I want to highlight, for example, two big, very prominent examples. One is Microsoft with the development of their browser Edge. And if the numbers are correct, I was able to read from Microsoft itself, is that they spent over 670 million machine years to fuzz against this browser, and this was leading up to, I think, 400 billion DOM manipulations with 1 billion incorrect HTML files they're using as input. So what you can see is that these resources you're using, they are massive. And on the other side, the companies are doing it over the years. So it means the return of invest should be, for them, at least for them, good. So challenging with fuzzing is that you have a huge area of input seeds you can use, or different input values. You have to make sure that you are using fuzzing in a way that you try to minimize the area where you try to identify bugs. So use intelligent fuzzers or customized fuzzers if you have input structures and all this stuff, so that you're not wasting just machine cycles. On the other side, it's an old technique and still very relevant, and it's not only relevant against searching for bugs or misbehavior, it's used really for automatic hunt of vulnerabilities. And so fuzzing is an old but very strong and well-used technique against security holes. Okay, that's it for the topic fuzzing today. So fuzzing is a little bit more extensive, so I think I will go a little bit more in detail of some parts of fuzzing later in some other videos. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe my channel, please. I really would like to see you as my new subscriber. And well, what I'm doing, I'm for the next few days here in the Swedish woods still, so I will record a bunch of other videos, so check out my YouTube channel. It should be somewhere around this video. And then looking for a place where I have my camp tonight. Then I will make a fire, something to eat, will relax and just enjoy this nature. And whatever date and time you're looking at this here, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Stay safe and see you.